This, to me, actually shows something important. And what it shows is the strength of interest in two subjects. One is the subject matter we're going to talk about, which is democracy and volunteerism. And second, it says something about our relationship between the Republic of Moldova and the United States. Very, very important. It's important to me, and that's why I like to get out and speak to students and speak to the citizens of this country. Now, one of the things I was hoping to achieve today was, unlike my previous speeches here, again, I could do the same thing, but unlike my previous speeches, I would like to try, I promise I will try, to limit my remarks to the key subject areas and leave some time for us to have a discussion. And that's what I was specifically referring to your class, that I was hoping that if I came to your class where we had a smaller group, we would truly have interaction. But we still have a chance to have that interaction today, because I'm going to try. I have a bad habit of talking, because this is a subject which is sort of dear to my heart, that it ends up being a long speech. I'm going to try to limit my remarks so that we can have time for discussion. And when I talk about the relationship between the United States and the Republic of Moldova and the subject matter of democracy, which I would like to have a discussion on, I think it would be important for me to mention the recent visit of the Vice President. That visit was an indication of, again, the strength of our relationship. But more importantly, if you look at the message that the Vice President delivered while he was here to the public, when he spoke to a large crowd in the Opera Square, and in his private meetings, and that message was encouraging the Republic of Moldova not only to stay on the path, but to strengthen those values of democracy which are the key to a successful, prosperous, democratic Republic of Moldova. That was his message. And one of the things that he specifically asked me to deliver back to the people of this country, and I would like to take this opportunity to say, is thank you on his behalf, because the hospitality that was extended to him from the time he landed at the airport, the streets, the way they were lined up, and all the people that came out to the Opera Square to listen to his speech. He has taken wonderful memories of his time here and his visit to the Republic of Moldova. This was his first visit, and he asked you, some of you, if you were there at the Opera Square, one of the last things he said was, "I'll be back." We are hoping that he will be back, and one way to do that would be to make sure that the country stays on a path of strong democracy, because that is really the biggest attraction which bonds the United States with the Republic of Moldova and is going to make it possible for us to invite the leadership of the United States. So, for that reason, what I wanted to do was just touch a bit on how do I see democracy, but really focus on the second part of the subject matter, which is volunteerism, because of the special occasion, and I'll mention that in just a moment. I have talked about the U.S.-Moldova relationship, and I've always said, even when I came here, that one of the key reasons why we have this strong relationship is this common bond that we have that is built on the democratic values that bind us together, bring people of the countries together. But what is democracy? I think all of you, we have gotten to a stage where everyone in this room now has a very good understanding of what that democracy means. You are going through this, you've been living through this most of your lives. And in the last couple of years, I think the speed and pace with which the citizens have gotten involved clearly indicates that democracy has taken hold and is now going to be flourishing and prospering. But still, in order for us to have success, it takes time, but democracy is a process which is constantly evolving. It's not a static process. So for that reason, we always need to keep in mind, what does it mean to be a democratic nation? What is the true definition of democracy? And my colleagues at the embassy always tell me that no one has really come up with a beautiful, wonderful definition of democracy, what it should look like. But in very simple terms, if I were to define democracy, it's simply people, the masses, holding sovereign power over government. That is just the basics of democracy. That means all of you, the citizens of the Republic of Moldova, are the true sovereigns and power holders in this country. Now, there are many elements to ensure that you can exercise that power, and those elements include, as we of course know, holding free and fair and transparent elections. And free, fair, and transparent elections do not happen only on the day of elections. That process starts before. The way the campaigns are conducted, the way the people, the citizens, and the parties and leaders are allowed to express their views and share their thoughts so that people can make an informed decision. Making sure that on the day of elections there is no intimidation. People have the right to express their will freely without fear of police or someone interfering with them. Secret ballot is an important element of democracy. These are all the foundations, and all of you know those. I don't need to go through and repeat those things. But an important part to remember is that when we talk about this particular element of democracy, the key in this is it cannot happen without you. That means your participation. And I'm trying to build a theme here, which is engagement of citizens. Your participation is the key to this first element. The second part that I always talk about is rule of law. For a democratic country to be successful, they have to have strong courts, strong legal and justice system, and a mechanism to implement the rule of law and uphold the rule of law. But again, it may appear to be something that the police or the Ministry of Interior or somebody else is responsible for this, but frankly and truthfully, no. Again, that part is not possible without the participation of the citizens. Because you have to take the responsibility to follow the rules. You have to take the responsibility to do what is required by law. And that may include, for example, paying your taxes. Or in the United States, one of the things we are required to do to strengthen our democracy is to serve on juries. In countries where there are requirements for serving in the military or civil service. I think some of those elements are present in the Republic of Moldova as well. These are, again, common elements between the United States and the Republic of Moldova, which are extremely important. But again, your participation is the key to the success of this part of this. The next part, which is, I think, one of the most significant parts, beyond holding elections and the rule of law, are the freedoms. Means freedom of expression. That means freedom of press. You have to be able to say what you think. Freedoms, of course, are not absolute. There is a limit to everything. What you say and what you do has to be controlled to the extent that it is not harmful to the reputation of another person or hurts another person. It has to be based on facts and truth. Unlike some of the newspapers or media outlets that may start spreading baseless rumors and stories, that goes beyond the true spirit of democracy. But again, it is up to you, the citizens of a country, you, the young people, the future of the country, to make sure that you engage and stay engaged to make sure that these elements are adhered to. So for that reason, the responsibilities really come back to all of you, the citizens. So if you build on that theme of citizen participation, let me tell you that the United States, as strong a democracy as it is today, it would not be so without the very active engagement and involvement and participation of the citizens of our country. There's no way around this. If you sit at home and expect the leaders or political leaders or law enforcement or somebody else to do this for you, this will not happen. For the United States, this started from the beginning. If you simply look at the Revolutionary War, or all the events that took place, there were people who rose up and said, we want to change things. And one of my favorite people from that time, from the 18th century, is Ben Franklin. I think I would encourage everyone to go and Google and read about Ben Franklin. There are so many things, elements of today's United States and to today's democracy that are built on the activities and actions that Ben Franklin was part of or took. And the true spirit of what we are here to talk about today, volunteerism, he started that idea in the United States. Ben Franklin was the first person who opened a library in the United States. He opened the first volunteer fire company. And you may know this, that in the United States, at the local level, at the regional level, we have police stations and fire stations which are the core of keeping our society going. And many of these fire stations, even today, 235 years, 36 years later, are actually run by volunteers. And I'm so proud to say that actually my son, who is a college student, full-time college student, takes 14, 15 credits in a university in Virginia, he is a volunteer fireman. So that's my special link to Ben Franklin. They say 6 degrees of separation. I have 2 degrees of separation with Ben Franklin because he started the first volunteer fire company, and my son is a volunteer at fire station number 17 in Central Virginia, and he spends about 30 to 40 hours every week giving up his time. That is the kind of spirit which keeps us going because we all participate. Another person that I want to mention to you is Clara Barton. I don't know if you have heard this name, but I would strongly encourage you to go out and Google this name from the 19th century. A wonderful woman who was a teacher at the beginning, but when the Civil War started, she gave up herself to go out in the battlefield in all that danger to help the wounded. And her memory is alive today because she was the founder of the American National Red Cross. And it was all being done on a voluntary basis, participation, to strengthen what she thought was her responsibilities and her country that she needed to be part of, to make sure that the values that were started by Ben Franklin and George Washington and John Adams and everybody at that time, those could be upheld. And in fact, just a few days ago, I mentioned that name because just a few days ago, I started reading a little booklet about Clara Barton, and I thought I should, at least mention that name just to encourage you to go out and again, Google her. Google is a wonderful thing. She was the person, and truthfully, when I heard this just the other day, when I read this the other day, I got very emotional. I think in my old age I'm getting emotional and teary easily, but when I read this, that after the Civil War ended, she partnered with a soldier who was a prisoner in the South and had come back, and somehow he brought the names of all the soldiers who had died in the Civil War, whose names would never be known, and the parents and the families would always wonder what happened to them. This soldier brought names of, I think, about 12,000 soldiers, and Clara Barton and this one soldier took it upon themselves to make sure that they identify each one of them and inform the families of every single one of them as to what happened to their loved ones. This may appear to be a small thing and something way back in the past, but I tell you that this plant of democracy, it needs this kind of nourishment, and we are drawing nourishment from this even today. And as you move forward in history, I've given you an example from the 18th century, and then I've given you an example in the 19th century, and then in the 20th century, the United States did something which was absolutely fantastic, and I'm so proud to always mention it and be associated with it, and that is in the 1960s. Our favorite president, my favorite president, John F. Kennedy, and his brother-in-law, Sergeant Schreiber,